Hello, all. Looks like we're live. Always like to pause for a second because it seems like it takes a minute for it to kind of load and then get out to everybody. I'm doing something here I'm going to show you in just a minute. You probably already saw glimpses of it. So anyway, let me do my greeting before I get cut off. At least I'll have that. Hello, friends. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. You know what's funny? I realized when I was editing the separate video I made from the two from Wednesday, because of course I got cut off, so I had to do it. I had to download both of the lives. I realized I forgot to say God is good all the time. The last one, I'm like, oh, how did I totally miss that? It's such a habit now that it kind of surprises me when I forget. So what I've got right here is a smaller cutting board that Patrick had made. So, you know, he's made me a few different cutting boards. The big board you see on my kitchen counter when I'm standing in the kitchen is not supposed to be used as a cutting board. That's not the point of it. It's just a kitchen board that I use for rolling out my doughs of various kinds, you know, working and rolling, you know, my bread doughs and tortillas and all that kind of stuff. And I was really wanting, I've got my chicken board. That one I always use for my bread when I'm cutting the bread. I use it for other things too, but since I always have a loaf of bread now with a fermentation starter bread, there's always a loaf of bread to be cutting. So I like to leave it on there. And then I needed another one. I wanted a smaller one for having on hand for doing little projects or cutting cheese on and stuff. And I was going to ask Patrick to make me another one. Now, he did make this one. But it was funny because I have this cabinet in here that I used to keep like all the rolling pins and cutting boards and other wood products he used to make to sell. He still makes some things to sell, but he's not doing the cutting boards anymore. And I got to digging back there and I found this little cutting board. I'm like, this is perfect. It's exactly what I need. I don't even have to ask him to make me one. He's already made one for me. It's for me now. There's another one right there. It's kind of a medium size. It's sort of narrow and long. That one's all maple. And this is whatever. This is probably maple, walnut, fir blend. I know the one on the board in my kitchen also has yew wood in it. That's kind of that orangier color, but it's darkened so much because I always, you know, oil it up. I just put some organic palm shortening that I get from Azure Standard. That's mostly what I use on them now, just because it's a little thicker than the coconut oil. And this one I'll need to do several times since it's, you know, it had one treatment on it. So I need to do that one quite a bit. And I do treat my boards like, well, the kitchen board gets treated after every time I roll anything out on it. And then I have to scrub all the flour and bread dough and stuff off and then get it nice and clean, let it dry, and I'll treat it again. It's simply just rubbing those oils in. It's really good to treat your wooden kitchen gadgets because it will help prevent cracking, kind of helps them self-heal a little bit better, and it just keeps them nice and looking nice for a long time. So yeah, anyway, I didn't have one particular subject today, so I just had a bunch of different things I wanted to chat about. And it might get a little noisy here within the next 15 minutes because my son's supposed to stop by and pick up his dog. So Luna's here again right now, as well as Cody right now, because Patrick and him just got back from the property. And he's probably going to be leaving again because he's still working on a piece of equipment down there. He's trying to get working. So, yeah. And we're finally supposed to get some hot weather again after all this cold we've had for about 2 weeks straight. It's been really cold and my corn has been growing really slow, but today is already pretty warm, though we got a nice breeze going. So you would have seen, if you're looking at my other channel, you would have seen that short that I just put out. That's that's just that one big section. I call it the main garden section, but it's not really my main garden. It's just of all my garden sections, it's the biggest chunk. And I didn't even list the potatoes in that because there is one along one side of that's potatoes, but I didn't get that part into the video. It's on the opposite side of where the beans grow on that trellis. But yeah, so I have, you can't really see the corn because right now the borage is as tall as or taller than some of the corn because the borage doesn't mind the colder weather, but the corn does. So it grows really slow. I don't use a scrub brush on my boards. I just use a washcloth. Once in a rare occasion, I may take my scrubber, just lightly run over if I've got some dough on there that's really stuck on there hard, and dried on there. And so, mm, yeah, mostly what I do is I'll start by taking my big wide stainless steel spatula and then just kind of try to scrape as much off that way first, and it makes it easier to clean off. So, anyway, so yeah, I have several different topics and they all don't quite go together, as somebody kind of pointed out earlier. Yes, punctuation is important, especially those commas when you're talking about slugs and snails, when you're talking about homemade creamsicles, et cetera, et cetera. Just, yeah, you don't want slug and snail creamsicles. That's just nasty. So what I want, actually, let's see. My first topic was going to be talking about the homemade creamsicles because you would have seen that short that came out. And sometimes people don't think to go look in the description. Shorts, you may not realize, have a description box. Unfortunately, for whatever weird reason, YouTube does not allow clickable links in the shorts in the description box. Sometimes you can put them in a comment, and sometimes they'll be clickable and sometimes not. It's so bizarre. But at any rate, what I did, you can have a clickable link to just one video right on the screen of that short, which I did link to the last full video I did on making creamsicles, and that was a honeydew creamsicles. That one. So I've done several over the years. They're all basically the same. The recipe's basically the same. I don't use really any real measurements. I just throw stuff in a blender, put in some half and half or whole cream, and some honey usually is what I like to use to sweeten it if it needs it at all. And then blend it up. The last batch of strawberry creamsicles I made, I did add some vanilla extract, and that added a really nice flavor. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, is that homemade creamsicles are super duper easy. And you don't have to have popsicle molds. You can simply pour them in little small glasses or little small, like half pint jars, and just freeze it like that. Just don't put a tight lid on it or anything. Just freeze it like that because it will expand. You don't want to put a lid on real tight and then have it break the jar, because if it doesn't have anywhere to expand to, it will expand out. So, but I haven't had any problem as long as I just leave a lid off until it's fully frozen. If you don't think you're going to eat it right away, then you can put a lid on it once it's frozen. And then you just eat it with a spoon. You may have to let it thaw out a little bit. But that's what I did with the excess. What doesn't go into the popsicle molds, I just put in a little glass and then freeze it. And that's how I prefer to eat them. Patrick likes the popsicles. So yeah, the exact stainless steel popsicle molds I used in that short and in that last video I did, that particular one that I bought that's no longer available, but I did link to some that are exactly the same thing, stainless steel with the wooden popsicle sticks, and I just wash them and reuse them, the sticks, but they give you like 50. So those are really good. The first ones I had were I can't remember the name, Zoku or something like that, and they were BPA free plastic, but they're still plastic. They're actually really nice. They work really well. If you go to my, I put a playlist for frozen treats, because not everything I show in that playlist are popsicles. Some of them I show putting them in little glasses. Um, but you'll see the plastic ones I was using. Then when I found the stainless steel ones, which they're more expensive, but I think they're worth it, because then you're not getting the plastic in there. But yeah, it's super easy. So some of the ones I've made over the years, I've made cantaloupe. All of them, I add some kind of like half and half or cream to it, or even heavy cream. So let's see, cantaloupe, honeydew. I've done like a pina colada. So I did the pineapple with coconut. I've done pineapple, banana, and coconut. I've done raspberry, strawberry, blueberry. One of the ones I've done is with the berries, just using berries stuff from the garden, is blueberries, currants, and rhubarb. Well, hello. I'm glad you were able to finally catch a live. Let's see. Orange cream. There's another good one. I've done a plum ginger. I think that's the one video. It's in there where I poured it into glasses. I've used guava fruit. Those were pretty good. So, hi Tina. And let's see what else. And then the chocolate. In fact, I think one of the very first videos I did, maybe no, it wasn't one of the first ones. I think one of the first videos I did, like back in 2016, was a strawberry creamsicle, but I've also done one on a fudgesicle, and I put that in quotes because it's just raw cacao powder, and then saying raw cacao is redundant because cacao over cocoa. Cacao means it's raw, cocoa means it's not raw. But anyway, using cacao powder and some cream, and I don't remember if I used sugar or honey in it. Usually in the creamsicles, I'll use honey, raw honey. So, and in the strawberry ones, I've been putting the raw raspberry blossom honey that I get from Azure Standard. So that's pretty good. Adds a nice flavor. And then however much you want to use in there. It's just like the basic recipe, using approximately 4 cups of fruit and I usually just put the cream or the half and half up to about where it comes to the top of where the berries or whatever fruit I'm putting in there is. Oh, I've made pumpkin creamsicles too. Pumpkin spice creamsicles. I forgot to write that one down. And then, add my honey and my whatever flavored extract I want to throw in there that I've made. Anyway, and then you just freeze it. It's so good. It's really good. It just is nice. It's simple, and they're great treats to have for the summertime, and you know exactly what's going in it. Good healthy stuff. And you don't have the thing that's great about adding the raw honey to it. It's nothing you're cooking, so you don't have to worry about damaging the benefits of the raw honey. You're just freezing it. So, I didn't know Luna was in here. I heard a little sound, and she's passed out over here on this big pillow. I keep a big pillow in here for the dog, so whenever we're in here and they want to hang out in here, they can lay on the big pillow. So what was it? Somebody said, yes, you can. What was Judy asking? Oh, yeah. Sorry. I saw that, but I thought it was a different question. I thought it was one I already answered. Sorry about that, Judy. So yeah, like Deb said, yes, you can. Yeah. You can, if you already have some loose leaf tea, it doesn't even have to be loose leaf. Just if it's in bags, you can cut it out of the bags and make infused oils out of that. And it's funny you brought up infused oils. I was going to bring that jar in, but I'm actually straining out my infused oil for the joint and muscle rub. Do I add salt to the creamsicles? No. Not, I mean, I suppose you could if you wanted to, but I don't. Anyway, I was letting my son have some of my, because he's just on his feet all day and his joints all start to hurt. He just turned 30 in the spring, and the job he does, he's constantly lifting and bending and moving and on his feet all day. and his back was hurting, his knees were hurting. And so I gave him some of my joint and muscle rub to borrow, not to borrow. I just gave him some, obviously. I poured some in a little bottle and sent it home with him to try. I haven't heard yet whether or not it helped or if he even thought to use it. But I realized, oh man, I still have that oil I started last year. And anyway, so I went to started straining it out today, and that stuff is dark. It's got, of course, that one is a little different because I also added whole cloves to it. So that's going to give it a much darker color anyway. So my goal is to try to see how well it works just as it is without adding any essential oils to it. Though the essential oils like the peppermint, eucalyptus, and clove, when you add that to it, it just feels really nice to rub into sore joints and muscles. So anyway, I'll when I shoot my next this and that video, not the one that's coming out tomorrow because it's that one's already said and done, ready to publish. But I'll show it in that because you'll see how dark it is because it's still in the process of straining out right now anyway. And then by then I will have tried it. I'm going to actually rub some in. My shoulders are a little sore today, so I'm going to rub some in right here and see how that feels without the added essential oils. So let's see. So I think that was it about the homemade creamsicles. It was just kind of more to inspire people. It's so easy. And again, you do not have to have any fancy popsicle molds. You can just do it in little glasses. If you have canning jars, little half pint canning jars, just use those. So, and then just freeze it. And it's ready to eat with a spoon. Or, if you do it in the glasses, you don't even have to wait until it's fully frozen since you'd probably need to thaw it a little bit first anyway. Otherwise, you're kind of scraping it out. You can just, check it. And when it gets to that point where it's really thick and it's still soft enough to spoon it out, but frozen enough that it's like this is going to be almost like ice cream, then there you go. Okay, so then the next subject that doesn't go hand in hand with creamsicles, let me clarify that, was about the slug and snail control. Now, I did do a video, I think a couple of years ago, about methods for, oh, and by the way, I just saw that thing flash, which I'm assuming we're still here, but I didn't see any warning. I just saw it out of the corner of my eye, so I'm hoping all is good. But if you lose me and you see it start to spin, I'll let you know right away in the chat because I know now what it looks like when I've been cut off from the YouTube end. And I'll let you know that we're going to the backup stream, which is always linked in the description box. So I always start that, get the backup stream set up. Just know that it's always set to private until I need to go use it. Then I set it on public and then I go live. So you have to give me a couple minutes. So anyway, slug control. I still have a jug of Sluggo bought from Amazon, which you recommended years ago. Yeah, that is the Sluggo. It works really good, and it's one that if you have to resort to buying any, that's the one I recommend because it is pretty much all natural. It's even approved for organic gardening. Even if your chickens or your pets eat it, it's not going to hurt them. It's basically just iron. And, too much iron will kill slugs, so they'll eat that for the bait. And so it's virtually non-toxic. I think it's entirely non-toxic. But so that's one of the answers to what we have to do. But I wanted to bring this up because every single time I talk about our slug problem, there's two things that people will recommend to me. And I want to explain because a lot of people don't know this because they might be new to my channel, that when you live in a place that gets 120, there we go. Somebody's already brought it up. 120 inches, and that's a low average of rain. The beer in dishes is absolutely 100% worthless. Well, I won't say 100% worthless. There's a couple percentages points that you might get one of the 3,000 slugs in your garden. I when I first started really getting serious about the garden and realized, man, these slugs are just horrible. I'm gonna try the beer and dishes. I tried so many different ways. So many different ways that would work without the dish filling up with rainwater, making little umbrellas basically for it, taking a bottle of beer, turning it sideways, obviously you have to dump some of the beer out so that the slugs could go inside. It was a bottle or a can, whatever. So that it'd be on its side so it wouldn't get filled up with rainwater. Pointless. Pointless. Everything I tried was an absolute waste of beer and time. So I say this because if it works for you, I know a lot of people use the beer and dishes method, and it works excellent for quite a number of people. But, there's a guy that we know that lives in Port Townsend, which is 2 hours from here. They don't get near as much rain as we do, and he's an avid gardener. He says, yeah, beer and dishes here is absolute waste of time. And that's even where he's at, and he doesn't get as much rain as we do. So there's many other methods that I bring up in that video, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and link to it because I'll probably forget a bunch of them. But some people claim that coffee grounds around your plants will help. Now, I put coffee grounds on a lot of my plants anyway. It doesn't do. I put that more to fertilize the plants. Does nothing to keep the slugs away. I've seen slug slime going right over the coffee grounds. And the crushed up eggshells. Did that. Slug slime right over the top of the eggshells. Let me tell you something. It's not that we have massive slugs. Some are. It's not that they're massive, though. It's that they're tenacious. And we have a great amount of them. So they are immune to coffee grounds and slug slime. Coffee grounds and eggshells and beer and dishes. And the copper, the reason that's pointless is because of our high moisture content, constant, it corrodes fast. Patrick even made little copper rings that we tried to put around my bean plants, and it was just no good. The slugs go right over it because once the copper is corroded, I mean, you'd have to constantly be out there shining up that copper. And so it's like pointless. But some people claim it works. So if you go to that video, by the way, I do have photos in there I took of the way some people utilize copper around like their planter boxes around the edges. And that I thought there were some really great ideas. Unfortunately, again, those are the kind of ideas that don't work for us. And then I was going to say the second most common thing that people will recommend are getting ducks. Well, that's great if one has the space and really wants ducks. I don't use a ton of eggs in my baking except for in cookies. I rarely use them in breads unless it's like cornbread. So I know duck eggs are great for baking, but to me, Patrick doesn't like duck eggs, and it's not worth it to me to give up even more of the space and the massive mess that ducks make just to have some slug control and maybe a few eggs for occasional baking. It's not worth it to me. However, ducks are better than chickens when it comes to eating slugs, but chickens will eat slugs. And the slugs that we have the biggest issue with are the little small ones. And they'll just devour those. And it's really apparent when I look at my gardens. So all my back gardens, all those back garden areas, most of those, the chickens get to roam free in a good amount of the year when things aren't growing. And very little slug problems back there. Very, very little. But And then in the front yard garden where they get to roam a good part of the year, I don't have as many slugs there. More than in the back, but not as many. But my two other garden areas that are one's over here and one's over here, those are the two that have the biggest slug issues. Why? Because my chickens never get to roam in those areas. It's just not set up where I can let them go out there and roam free. But the chickens were the one thing that really, really helped my garden. So not only do I got the chickens for their fertilizer, their eggs, their enjoyment, their little tilling feet, but they're also my slug control. And I don't have to have ducks too. So I just would like to figure out a way where I could rig it up where I could let them in the fall, you know, hang out in these other areas, but they're smaller areas anyway. So that is where and in my pots, those are the places where I use the Sluggo. And it doesn't just dissolve when water hits it. So you can water your plants, it can get rained on. It doesn't just immediately dissolve. And that works really good. It's definitely going to be far safer than slug line or something like that. So I did have somebody though bring up to me recently, and I hadn't heard this one about wool fiber. You can put wool fiber around your plants that are getting devoured by slugs, and the slugs won't go over the wool fiber. And she said that works really well for her. But if it's an area that you would till, you would have to pull all that fiber up, obviously, or it's going to get all hung up in your tines. So I was thinking that's interesting. I've got some wool fiber. I'll probably never get around to um, spinning it. That's why I have it, is so eventually I can start spinning it if I ever have time and the desire to really want to get in there and do it. I have a spinning wheel, by the way. Antique. I love it. It's beautiful. But I don't know if I'll ever actually get a chance to use it. Anyway, a lot of the places where I'd need it the most, I don't know, I could see maybe using it in these gardens here because they don't get tilled. And I may try it because those are the two areas that I need the slug control the most. But on the other hand, a lot of the stuff I grow in these two sections are things that slugs don't eat as much. There's a few things, obviously, like they love horseradish leaves. But the thing is, once the horseradish really starts taking off, there's so much of it that the slugs don't harm the plant. And I don't care. It's not a big deal. So it's mostly just the things that if I'm going to grow something there, and I don't want the slugs to eat it, then I'll sprinkle a few of those around in it, usually the little pellets, and it usually does pretty good until the plant gets big enough. So, let me see. I'll tell you what I used to do though before I got the chickens. I think I shared this last time when I was talking about slugs. Is I used to go out early in the morning. Early in the morning. Well, before the sun was up, before the slugs all go into hiding away from the sun. Um, Darlene, some people say it does, but that's one of those things that here it would be completely useless, especially because of rain and wash it into the soil anyway. Some people say it does. I don't think it does. I don't think it works on slugs personally. I think I've tried it in a couple places and it didn't do anything, but you could try it and see. I mean, that's the nice thing about diatomaceous earth is it's pretty cheap and it's good for, your plants anyway. You're getting minerals and stuff in there. But anyway, what I used to do is go out really early and just I had a bucket or something that I had dedicated just for slugs. And I'd just start hand picking the slugs off all my beans and other plants and go through the whole garden, pick, pick, pick. And I wouldn't stop until I had a very minimum of 100, sometimes 200 slugs. And I'm like, okay, done for the day. Next morning, go out and do the same thing. That's how many slugs. Not kidding. Until I had chickens. Chickens were Chickens. I love my chickens. My little slug eating chickens. Now, not all the chickens will eat the slugs, but enough of them will eat the slugs that they keep them at bay. That is for sure. So I saw somebody say tar heel. That's kind of interesting. Tar heel here also. I'm missing who all the others are. I'm not a Tar Heel, though my father-in-law called me a second growth Tar Heel one time, which was quite the compliment. I can't remember what I'd made that day, biscuits and gravy or something. He's like, "You become a second growth Tar Heel." I'm like, "Well, thank you." But at any rate, right here, with that said, I've got some dehydrated Tar Heel beans. Though I realized when I went and cooked them up, because I was making the beans and cornbread for dinner last night before, and I decided to use my dried beans. Now I know I have some vacuum sealed in jars that say Tar Heel beans. These didn't say anything. I know they were pinto beans, but I realized they had no seasoning at all. So I had to add all the seasoning to them. Like, these must have just been plain beans that I didn't actually season. So they cooked up great, no problem. But I do have some where I made my whole Tar Heel with the spices and the greens and the salt and the pepper and all that in there, and that's all dehydrated. So what I do is I'll make a big pot of it, and whatever we don't eat for the next couple of nights, then I will dehydrate them and put it vacuum seal in a jar. Then I can just um whenever I want to make it again, if I don't, if it's something I want to do quickly and I don't have time to cook the beans for a couple of days, then I can just take some of the dehydrated beans, throw them in a pot with some water, and then make up a batch of cornbread. White cornbread. It has to be white. If it's a yellow, it's wrong. That was something I had to learn. I'm a northern girl, northwestern girl, born and raised in Washington State. I knew nothing about this kind of stuff until I met and married Patrick. I had to learn all this stuff. I didn't know there was such a thing as white cornmeal and making white cornbread. I had no idea. So I learned there was a difference between cornbread and Johnny cake. I'm like, we just called it cornbread, but okay. Yep, no sugar. No sugar in the Tar Heel cornbread. If it's Johnny cake, that's different. You put sugar in it. So let me double check, make sure I didn't miss anything. I can hear Patrick must be on here. Has he commented? The reason I say that is I can hear him playing my live in the other room because I'm hearing an echo. I'm like, what the world is going on here? Let's see. Oh, I did actually write down diatomaceous earth just because some people have said it works for them. So I just don't know from experience, because my experience with most of the stuff is it doesn't work in rain country. My Johnny cake recipe? Or do you mean the Tar Heel cornbread recipe? I think I have that in my beans and cornbread video, or Tar Heel beans and cornbread, but I don't have a recipe out there. But it's just a standard. I don't know. I used to just follow what was when I used to buy cornmeal in a box. Now I just know roughly how much, if I'm going to make more of a sweet cornbread. I like to do that when I make chili, or when I make well, I don't like to make it that sweet, but when I make like a tamale pie, I'll use the yellow cornmeal for the top and make it more like the Johnny cake. So I just don't have a basic recipe. I just throw it together. You use roughly like a cup of flour if you're making a standard batch, a cup of flour, a cup of cornmeal, an egg. Oh, what is it? Maybe about a third cup of oil, like, avocado oil, whichever your favorite oil is. You can use some kind of other, like, melted fat, like beef fat or something. A quarter cup of sugar, I think, about a tablespoon of baking powder, and a cup of milk, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I just throw it together. But if you like ever buy the Argo cornmeal, there's a recipe. It used to be a recipe on there. It's just that standard recipe. But I don't follow a specific recipe anymore. I just do it. Oh yeah, and then the other thing for the white cornbread is it's got to be buttermilk, and I never have buttermilk on hand. I find it easier just to use milk and then add lemon juice to it and let it clabber. Or vinegar, actually. I use vinegar, homemade vinegar instead. It's cheaper. So that was it for the slug and snail control. But if you'd like to learn a little bit more and see some of the images, you might want to check out that video if it's something you need to um, learn more about, because I think I covered quite a bit. I just didn't say anything about the wool because that was a totally new one to me. Butter, yeah. Butter would be great. A little melted butter. You just got to want it melted so it mixes in easier. Okay, what was my other subject? Oh, lily flowers. So I've been showing you I still don't have any of my orange daylilies have not bloomed yet. I see little buds on them, but they're taking forever. But I've been getting pink ones like crazy. There's actually a lot in here. But just like anything else, once you dehydrate it and then you crush it a little bit, I mean, you can fit it in a little bitty jar. But I wanted to bring this up again. Now, I have that video about where I talk about, yes, you can use milk kefir. Anything that buttermilk would go in, you can substitute that with milk kefir. I've done that many times. In fact, milk kefir actually tends to make it fluffier than just standard buttermilk, I found. So, anyway, so I have a video in the description box on the benefits and uses of daylily flowers. And so right now I've been dehydrating up a bunch. I don't know if I'll dehydrate up much more than what I've got here because I'll still have my orange ones and then I want to mix them together. And then I'm going to mix them in with my greens blend to add color. But then the rest I'm pretty much using fresh. So the other night or was that last night? Good grief. No, it was the night I think I made the beans and cornbread. It was Friday night. I took the daylilies out of bloom that day because this thing, they're daylilies. Hi, Tammy. It's okay. I'll forgive you. Just this once. um, you want to pick them the day they bloom, or they won't be there the next day because they will die. That's why they're called daylilies, because they're only good for a day. So I picked the daylilies and then threw them into my stir-fried vegetables. I pulled out my snow peas right now, at least at the time that I'm doing this live show, in case somebody's watching the edited version 6 weeks down the road. My snow peas are only just starting to flower. So I still have snow peas from previous years that I keep in the freezer. So I used snow peas, some organic mini bell peppers that I get from Misfits Market, and I threw in like 3. I break the base off and then just throw the petals in their whole into the stir fry, and onions and garlic. I can't remember if I threw in some nasturtium leaves in there too, and one thing you got to realize though is when you go to stir fry them, they'll lose their color. They kind of turn sort of just plain yellow. They don't, you don't keep that pretty pink color or whatever color they are. But it's just a way to add more nutrition and more to a vegetable dish, or to even if I was using them in fried rice, I would cut them up so they weren't longer pieces. But lily flowers are commonly used like in hot and sour soup, dried lily flowers. What they do is they tie the whole lily flower, it's more like the bud, just young, and they tie it in a knot, and then you throw that into your hot and sour soup, which I actually have a recipe I did several years ago on that. I don't think I've made hot and sour soup since then. I need to make it again. It's been a long time. See, I've been picking daylilies every morning, eating them and dehydrating them. Yeah, I like to eat them right off the plant a lot of times. Hey, Billy. So, anyway, what else? Did I write down some other things besides using in stir fries? And dehydrating. So the greens blend, adding them to the greens blend means they would go in any dish that I'm making because I add the greens blend to almost everything anymore. Even I'll even put it like if I'm making hamburger patties or meatloaf, or meatballs, I'll sprinkle that in there too, the greens blend. And so I'll have my dried lily flowers mixed in there as well. But yeah, so much you can do to add them to your cooking. And I love the fact that I can grow something really pretty like that. And then I just wish they lasted longer than a day so you can enjoy their beauty a little bit longer. You usually just kind of you can wait till the end of the day and then pick them. You just don't want them to sit overnight or they'll be all wilted by the next morning. So I stuff my daylily flower. Oh, that's what I was going to say. You can also fry them. You can bread and fry them. So in that video that I linked to that Deb I think already shared in the chat, I did took some of them. I had both orange and pink ones at that time, and then breaded them. And I think the breading I used on that was the same breading I use for like when I'm making almond chicken or the orange chicken, the spicy orange chicken. Um, it's same kind of breading and just fried it up, and that was pretty good. Or you even eat them fresh with like your homemade ranch dressing or whatever your favorite kind of dip is. They're pretty good. I love the fact that I love growing things that can have multi-purpose, especially when you're doing stuff in such a small area. If you saw that short that came out this morning on the other channel and all that stuff, and that's just one. Again, let me stress, that's just one of my garden areas. It's just of all my garden areas, it's the biggest one, so it has the most stuff in it. And there's a couple of blueberries back in there too, and one strawberry plant that ended because when we took one of the blueberries out of the pot on the deck and planted it back there, which is doing great now that it's back there. It was dying, but it had a strawberry attached to it because I had strawberries growing in the pot with it, and it would have been too hard to remove the strawberry plant without killing it because it was so entwined with the roots of the blueberry. Both that strawberry and that blueberry plant are doing amazing back there now that they're out of that pot. I've already got a couple of really good sized strawberries. The leaves on just the sections of the leaves on that strawberry are like this big. So the leaf as a whole is like that big on some of the leaves on that strawberry plant. So and then again along the side of those potatoes. So yeah, you're trying to make the most of your space. And I know some people wouldn't agree with the way I do things, but I'm doing things the way that works best for me. One thing I like about growing the borage right in there with the corn, well, first of all, the borage just comes up on its own and I let it grow for the most part wherever it wants to. But if it gets to where it's completely shading out my corn and I got the corn's only this big and the borage is this big with leaves this big and the corn is getting no sun, then I'll either pull up that whole borage plant or break the leaves off and dry them up to use them for my teas. Or like today, I just started 2 more batches of an cold infusion where I use borage leaves and mojito mint. That's a really nice blend too. Those two together, or any mint for that matter, because borage has that nice flavor, that cucumbery flavor that goes so well with just about anything. And so that makes a really good infusion, cold infusion for hot days. And it's getting hot out there. It's actually still pretty cool in here right now, but I don't see anything moving around out there, so it looks like the breeze has died. So it's gonna get hot. But yeah, so I just or if the borage plant is just crowding out too much, I just pull it up and throw it out to the chickens. The chickens will eat as good. The chickens and the chicks, they all love the borage and they'll devour it. So mostly the leaves, not really so much the stalk, but they'll peck at that too. But they love the leaves, the flowers, and all that. So yeah, there's no way it would get 106 here. It's it's gotten over 100 degrees here. That's very rare. And it's horrible here when it gets that hot because in Wenatchee that was just standard, but here because then you got the high humidity when it gets that hot, it's very uncomfortable. I shouldn't say horrible, it's just very uncomfortable. But I don't know how hot it's supposed to get. I heard it was supposed to just get into the 80s, which here is pretty hot and can be pretty uncomfortable when you've lived here for such a long time. But yeah, I know that's not hot for a lot of people that live in the southern states. So I was trying to think if there was anything else I didn't write down that I do with the lily flowers. There's a lot of great things you can do with them though. But again, I'll refer to my video, refer you back to that. And then let's see, another thing that was kind of interesting. So we had a planned power outage. So we have planned power outages frequently. We also have unplanned power outages frequently. Well, even when they're planned, because I keep forgetting to make sure the power company here has our phone number. So they send out the robocalls to let everybody know about I never get them. So if I'm not paying attention to Facebook, the group page, I'll never know. But I happen to see it. I'm like, oh, look, there's a planned power outage. So I let one of my family members know because I know that they don't have a generator. And and I know they were complaining the last time they were all worried about their food spoiling. And so I have all these ice packs I get from like Misfits Market. Sometimes I order from Costco, Azure Standard. I don't, well, now that I do the drop point, I don't get ice packs anymore. But when I'd have the Azure Standard order shipped of the things that cold items that I could actually get here, um, they would come with ice packs. So I have all these ice packs. A lot of times I throw them away because I end up with so many, but I try to keep as many as I can because they come in handy for all kinds of things for throwing, especially in the summertime, throwing into coolers, when we're going to do something down at the other property, or like when we went to the lake on the Pentecost and I threw a couple of those into our cooler. It kept everything perfect. So I gave her a bunch of these ice packs and said, if you have room in your freezer, take these and stick them in your freezer. And then when that power outage comes up, then you can take those out of your, at least some of them out of your freezer and put them in your fridge to keep your food cold. And so she did that. And so after the power came back on, she said, thank you so much for those ice packs. They worked perfectly. And she said it kept everything cool in there and the ice packs didn't even melt. They were only just, I think, just started to get soft. So I bring that up because, if you don't have solar power or generator, there's still things that you can do to help get you through times like that for when there's, temporary power outages, planned or unplanned. If you always have a pack of some ice packs, gel packs, whatever, or if you don't do orders like I do where you get those kind of things in, then you can take milk jugs or some kind, preferably plastic, so it doesn't break because you're going to want to put a lid on it. So something that can expand. So plastic milk jugs, plastic pop bottles. A lot of people don't buy pop, but there's got to be something. But anyway, juice bottles, and you can just fill those up with tap water. It doesn't, because the water doesn't matter. The whole idea is the ice. And then throw those in your freezer. And then you're doing a couple of good things is you're not only packing your freezer full that's with all the empty spots get filled up with ice packs. That's going to help reduce your, the how much your freezer is going to run. So you're going to be saving electricity there. But when the power goes out, it's also going to help keep your food cold. But if you really need to, you can take some of those out and stick them in your refrigerator too, to keep things cool in your refrigerator. So she said that worked really good for her. We stopped freezing meat and can as much as possible. Freezer failures, whether by power outage or compressor failure, can cost several $1,000 of, yep, it sure can. I do have a lot of canned meat and dried meats, but I still have most of our meat in our freezers. But of course, with us, we have, like this time of year, the freezers and fridge run 100% of the time on solar power. And then if we absolutely have to, like in the wintertime, we have a power outage, we don't have enough solar power to run those, then we'll just use a gas generator and just plug them into that. But I also keep everything really well insulated. So as I mentioned too, the freezer, making the freezer quilt, or, you can throw any blanket over your freezers. This works best for chest freezers, though upright freezers are easier to organize and get to things than chest freezers. You lose a lot more. Your chest freezers are typically, not unless things have changed, but chest freezers typically are going to be more, um, what's the word I'm looking for? There I go again. It seems like every live show I'm trying to think of a word. Well, economical when it comes to conserving the power, and just because of the way it's set up. And then you can throw a quilt over it as long as it covers at least all the uh the seams, where the door is, as long as it covers, energy efficient. Thank you. Thank you, Carol. That's what I was looking for. Um, so you're not losing cold out that way. Usually you're going to lose most of it out the top and around the seal. Right. So, yeah, making sure that's covered. You can throw 2 or 3, even a sleeping bag over it. Uh, that way that will help insulate everything to help keep everything cold when the power goes out. So for here, we'd only have to be concerned about it if it's extended. Now we could have freezer failures, and we have had that happen before. And even then, I'm not that worried about it. Uh, we managed to make it work last time, and I can just start canning a whole bunch of meat if I need to. But yeah, and we never leave. We never go anywhere, so that's another reason why I just not too worried about it, but it is a good idea. It is a good idea to consider, like, your highly expensive stuff and what would happen if you lose your freezer. So anyway, what else here? I'll just share that. Got a couple more things. Now the next thing I'm going to say is going to be a little bit silly, but I'm also kind of serious. So I have a conspiracy theory, and my conspiracy theory is that most conspiracy theories are a conspiracy to keep us distracted from what really matters. Now, this doesn't mean there aren't conspiracy facts. There's a lot of them that have been proven, especially more recently, right? Proven to be true. However, there's so many crazy, I've talked about this so many times, but there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. Part of it was I wanted to share with you my new conspiracy theory, which I think is kind of funny, right? But I really do think there's so much out there that it's um whoever's starting it. Like some people, okay, some people do it for the sake of clicks because they can make money. Oh, I'm going to make up a new conspiracy theory and say, this or that or the other thing, and try to convince people of what I believe, and show them facts that are based on nothing. And then I can get clicks, and then I can get money. People make a lot of money off of this kind of stuff, especially people who are just love conspiracy theories. So they're going to buy it every time, or at least watch it or read it, whatever it is. And then they'll turn around and share that same information. So there's yeah. Right, there's this whether it be started the conspiracy theories are started by the government who's trying to distract us from something other conspiracy that's real, or it's started by people that just like drama, or it's started by people that are doing it for the sake of monetary value. There's there's many reasons why conspiracy theories get started. And so I will come back to the fact that you got to make sure that you vet everything before you start spreading this information, and especially causing yourself or anyone else to be having to live in fear of something. That's not where we should be. And we those of us who are Christians know that we're not supposed to live in fear. That's not where God wants us. We have to remember he's in control, and if you're not a believer, living in fear is going to do absolutely nothing for you. Sorry, get itching throat. I'm surprised I made it this long because it was bothering me a lot yesterday. I hate it that when I'm at my fellowship, I can only sing little bits of songs, and then it's like, okay, I know it's time to stop. So I kind of wore my vocal cords out yesterday, even with trying to be careful. Um, but I say, what was I going to say? Shoot, I might have to use my spray to get the itching. I think I'm going to do that just to get the itchiness to stop. It sits for so long between uses, I have to pump it a few times to get it up there. But yeah, I mean, if you're living in fear, it's going to make you, you're going to be in a constant state of stress. You're going to be angry and fearful, and it's going to do nothing to help you out, not for your health, not for the work that you do. I mean, there's some of that that's good to help kind of give a person a kick in the rear end to say, gee, I guess I should probably do something. Looking at, the price of food, you're looking at the realistic stuff. It'd probably be a good idea if I grew a garden and had some food storage and had, because there are power outages, had ways that I could, cover myself in such events when they happen, water main breaks and the like. Obviously, I mean, some of that it's okay if it's going to help get us to a point that we can be more prepared, but it shouldn't be because we're afraid. And if God be with us, who can be against us? Absolutely. There's nothing to worry about. Right. So, and this is why, I call myself a recovering conspiracy theorist, not because I stopped believing in some of them, but because I was one of those people that was starting to fall for every single one and was constantly in a state of anger and fear until it suddenly hit me that, is this where God wants me? What is this doing for me? How is this helping anything living like this? So yeah, so that's why I bring this up a lot, is you gotta make sure that if you actually think it's important, because 'cause I've heard some out there that I'm like, "That's kind of an intriguing, interesting conspiracy theory." I don't have time to look into it, and it's one of those, some of those are just, they're not gonna do anything to change anything. Whether we know the truth or not, it's not going, a lot of this stuff does not matter. And so it's like, I just don't have time for that. It's interesting. I don't have time for it. So with that being said, I'm sure by now I noticed nobody's talking about this anymore. And I tried to look into it before, couldn't find any information, and now found that um, indeed this was a conspiracy theory. So I think a lot of you probably remember, not that long ago, everybody was freaking out because Katy Perry bought, now I don't know about this part. Apparently this part's true, that Katy Perry bought out Bragg's, the company. And but here's where the conspiracy theory came in. And when people first started talking about this, I found absolutely not one single shred of evidence on what people were claiming. Not one. All I could find were just a couple of random videos, short videos that people had made about how Well, now that Katy Perry has bought out Bragg's, the company, they're making all their she's teamed up with Bill Gates and they're making all their vinegar with the apples that have been treated with the appeal. Wrong. Now, when you when you understand how vinegar is made in the first place, you would realize how silly it would be for any company that makes vinegar to buy apples, then invest in a product to put on the apples to make them last longer. When you're not selling the apples in the store, you're using the apples, which are usually going to be seconds, meaning nothing wrong with them. They just might not look pretty, but those are going to be the apples you're going to use to make vinegar. Why would you invest in a product to put on an apple that you're not going to need that on anyway, because the apples are going to be used to make vinegar anyway? The only reason something like a peel or whatever the other one, there's another one, I think it starts with an O. Did I write that one down? I know there's another one. Anyway, I don't remember. Those are for the apples that they sell in the store to keep them looking fresh longer, right? And to supposedly hold their freshness. Now, obviously, none of us want that. We don't care. We don't need that. But it would be an incredible waste of money for the company to do that. If they did that, well, it would just be silly. It'd be a waste of money and time. And so, with that being said, the Bragg's apple cider vinegar is not something you should be afraid of. Now, I have never, ever bought the vinegar because when I saw how expensive it was years and years ago, I was like, I'm just going to start learning how to make my own. And I did. So I don't need to buy it. But for those who aren't into vinegar making and you like Bragg's, I keep wanting to say liquid aminos because that's the one thing I do use. Then don't be afraid of the Bragg's, excuse me, apple cider vinegar. My throat is still itchy. It's just somebody jumped on a bandwagon. Well, somebody created this lie based off of a truth and said, okay, now we're going to add this to, and then we're going to spread this information, get people all freaked out. So they keep coming back to this video without one shred of evidence, not one. So, and now because that rumor that everybody started spreading went all over the place, you can go to the Bragg's website and it's actually on their top question now in their FAQ section. Do you use a peel on your products? No, it's still the same recipe they've always used. Now, you could say they're lying, but I know they're not because it wouldn't make any sense. So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about is you got to be really careful, not just for the sake of your own sanity, but for spreading lies. Not only is that going to make you look bad when people realize it's not true, and then they're not going to believe anything you say when it does matter. Now you're probably getting other people all freaked out and scared over something that's just not true. Now, I will say, I was a little concerned about someone like Katy Perry buying out a company. It's like, what's going to happen to the company? And so I did, for the sake of the liquid aminos, decide to start looking for another soy sauce that is organic and non-GMO. And it is hard to find. And the Bragg's, I did find Kikkoman does make a organic non-GMO soy sauce, which some people don't realize that liquid aminos is soy sauce. That's what it is. It's just a different name. So anyway, this particular soy sauce is more expensive because it's coming straight from Japan and it's only made in Japan. They don't make Kikkoman organic non-GMO soy sauce in the United States. It's only made in Japan. In fact, when you get the bottle, it's got Japanese writing all over it. So you can find that, but if you buy Bragg's liquid aminos, like especially if you can get it by the gallon, you're going to save yourself a lot of money. And I'm just not going to let myself be afraid of it. I like it better than the coconut aminos, generally speaking, though I do like coconut aminos for some things, just not everything that I would use, that I would like soy sauce with, because I like that flavor with certain things. And the coconut aminos are good in some ways, but in some other things, they just don't cut it when you're wanting that flavor. I am not a McD fan, but they were accused of using worm meat in their burgers. Their answer was genius. We looked into worm protein, but found it was more expensive than beef. Oh, funny. Yep. Yeah, Bragg's liquid aminos it's just soy sauce. The one thing I would say I don't like is I wish it was fermented. They pride themselves on the fact that it's not fermented, but I wish it was, because a fermented soy product is actually healthier than a non-fermented. But Bragg's is organic and non-GMO. So, yeah, it's just soy sauce. But it's a healthier form. So anyway, that was why I brought up the conspiracy theory idea again, because I wanted to. I kept meaning to talk about this. I don't know how many times I had this written down in my notes to talk about the appeal and the Bragg's apple cider vinegar, and I kept forgetting to get to it, or running out of time, or getting cut off before I had a chance to. And then I'd forget to bring it up again in the next show. If McD's sell human meat, LOL, who knows? Like Soylent Green, you never know. You never know. I think it's kind of crazy that there's some protein drink out there called Soylent. Come on, people. You knew what you were doing when you named it Soylent. Come on. I'm sure it's because it's got soy in it, but really? Yeah. I'm not buying a product called Soylent. That's for dang sure. Evil can't help but to brag. Okay, sorry. I gotta spray this again. My throat is so itchy today. I'm really surprised I've done that good today, though, because I knew yesterday, I'm like, man, I'm sitting there in the fellowship and I'm singing, and I'm a little bit, sing a little bit, rest a little bit, sing a little bit, rest a little bit. Man, I think my throat is not in good shape as it is. I should not be singing at all, but I want to sing. I miss singing. And then, and it was kind of sore last night, and then sore again this morning. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through the live show. So honestly, it's already been over an hour, and I didn't get cut off. Which, by the way, if I do get cut off before I have a chance to say my goodbyes, that sounds really bad. Before I have a chance to say my goodbyes, yeah, I won't go to the backup stream. So they get their ego from their master. Organapeel, that was the other one. I knew it was one that started with an O. Is used like appeal according to Google. That was the one, because I never heard of that one until I went to Bragg's web page and was looking at their FAQ section, and that particular question was right at the top. It's like, no, Bragg's does not use appeal or organapeel in their product. I picked up my phone and I thought, wow, Heidi has some really cool snow. Look on her screen, realized I had Yeah, no snow. We hardly get snow in the winter. Certainly not this time of year. Get a lot of rain, and sometimes we can get a little bit of hail, but usually not midsummer, though. We're not midsummer yet, but we're supposed to be officially into summer, from what I understand. So yeah, I covered all my topics. Yay. And I was surprised I got that short out today. I'm like, oh, it's actually nice enough I can run out there and get a little clip of my backyard garden. I need to show a clip of my front yard garden soon too. All my potato plants are this tall, no matter where they're at. They're all tall. It should be getting close to time where the plant starts to die and then I start digging up the potatoes. I can hardly wait to do the dry canning. And like I've said before, since I've never done it before, I'm gonna I was laughing at Rich Girl. I didn't even see the whole comment. I just saw cray cray, and that was enough to make me laugh. Raised in Colorado, we could get snow in June. Yeah. Yeah, that is crazy. That is cray cray. But anyway, I think I'll do like just a couple of pint jars since I have the smallest all-American canner, as well as the second to the largest one. That's my oldest one, but at that garage sale, I picked up that little small one. It's just big enough where I can put in 4-quart jars and maybe 6-pint jars. I'm going to use wide mouth though, so I'll probably just put a couple and try them first. And then, so I'm hoping I can find something else to can. And no, I'm not going to can water with it because I don't need to do that. Maybe I'll find something else I can while I'm at it. But anyway, I'm going to do that and see what I think first. And if I'm happy with them, I'm probably going to put up, like the way everybody's talking about, I'm probably going to put up quite a bit of potatoes like that. I'm still right now trying to work through the last of the canned potatoes where I canned in water. I'm finding one of the best ways to use them besides potato salad is if I put them into the pan with a roast of some kind and just, I pour them into the colander, rinse them out, and then put them in a pan with a roast. Today I'm using a jar I've got some stew meat. It's basically just what I call like a beef veggie bake. So I've got some beef stew meat and some carrots, some rainbow carrots that I got from Misfits Market, since it'll be a while before my carrots are ready. And I didn't want to use my canned carrots. What else did I throw in there? Onions, garlic. I put something else in there. I can't remember. But and then potatoes, I just put them in there. And so when they bake in there like that, it takes on the flavor of the beef. And so it does actually help make them taste better. It's not that they taste bad. It's just, in fact, the ones I did in 2018 were way better than the ones I did in 2013. But yeah, and some herbs like thyme and sage from the garden. I did throw in a little paprika, salt and pepper, and just baking it in the solar oven. So we'll see how that turns out. But that does seem to help with the previously canned potatoes that we didn't like as much. So, but some people said that, if I remember correctly, some people were saying that when they did the dry canning of the potatoes, that they actually kind of brown a little bit on the outside as if you fried them. So if somebody's done that in here and they had that result, please share that with us in the chat, because I'm like, that sounds good. But everybody that's tried it has said they turn out way better than canning in water. See, we were in Anchorage in 1964 for a couple of years. We missed the big earthquake, but I was elementary age. What else? See, now here I go again, jumping in on a conversation. I have no idea what it's about. And then I always feel like I'm eavesdropping, even though it's public. 4 feet of snow on the ground. What was that? April 9th, 4 feet. Well, that's Alaska. I've never been to Alaska. Though there's some beautiful country up there I've seen. I've not seen with my own eyes, but seen in videos and pictures. I had my water packed potatoes to roast. Yeah, it seems like that's kind of one of the best ways to use Maple Ray. That does seem like one of the best ways to use those kind of potatoes. But yeah, I'm really anxious to see how those will turn out with the dry canning because it shouldn't be that long. I'm looking at my potato plants though, and they're just like they still look very, very happy and lively. So they're still growing. So I'm not touching them yet. So hi Teresa. No worry. I'm actually done with my topic, but I'm just chatting about whatever. See, I dry can potatoes, carrots, and sweet potatoes. I remember you said that. Oh, the carrots. I want to try that with carrots too. That's that's what I should do. I should can I should dry can some carrots with do a couple of jars of that. I was like I said, I'm not canning any more carrots this year because I'm going through my pantry today. I was kind of looking in there. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, I have a ton of canned carrots. I didn't realize I had that many. I'm not canning any carrots this year, but if I'm just going to do a couple small jars of potatoes to try them out, I might as well do a couple jars of the carrots that same way to try those out. Because I have a feeling that would probably turn out better too. Well, and I think you've said as much. Salmon cake, smoked salmon, candied salmon, salmon steaks. What are we doing? Is that why did the salmon thing came up? Let's see. Yes. What am I missing? What did I miss? Ah. Oh, okay. Those are my notes for my this and that that I got to shoot on Wednesday. Didn't give me a headache. Oh, I'm missing much stuff. I'm sorry. I'm not. I need to read my chat so I can know what in the world is going on here. Deb, you gave her light bulbs. I don't know what any of this means. I'm getting lost. Always use diamond canning list when serving 10 carrots per jar. Very funny. Oh, dry canning has got to be on the menu now. Oh, yeah. 14 months in Afghanistan. Well, you were there for a long time. I didn't realize you were there for that long. Is that common to be there that long? When Patrick served in the military, it was during a time where there was nothing like that going on. I mean, he was stationed in quite a few different places. Oh, I refused to eat salmon for 5 years after I left Alaska. Oh, because you were talking about Alaska. That's why the salmon. I get it. See, the pieces are coming together. I understand that. I understand that about salmon. That's something I could see myself getting sick of quick. We get salmon around here because, there's a lot of people that catch salmon. We just don't get out and go fishing a lot, but usually we find a way to get some. And I still have a lot canned up from that trip that Patrick took with his dad several years back. And I canned up a bunch of it, and I love having that. It's so good to make, to use either in a dip, with cream cheese and some onions, garlic, or to use in a dinner like tuna noodle casserole, but salmon instead. I haven't actually made a tuna noodle casserole with tuna in I don't know how many years because I'm always using salmon. In fact, I'm thinking, I don't think it would taste as good, but I'm thinking about trying I've got some cod in the freezer. Then I probably won't. I just think the salmon is best. Salmon or steelhead. So anyway, steelhead is similar to salmon. It's a lighter color and a little bit more mild in flavor than salmon. So we get a lot of steelhead around here. I got out afterwards because I became a dad and I expected the same deployment every 2 years. And yeah, that's a long time. Army does 12-month deployments unless you're special operations. Okay. We got extended a couple months. Okay. I get it. Right. Yeah, that's Tyler, that's what always confuses me. Are steelhead and salmon the same thing? Is one um I I always get confused on that one. Well, anyway, I do like the taste of steelhead a little better than salmon, but they're both good. I used to hate salmon for the longest time. Just was I don't know why. Which is funny because when I was a kid, I hated most fish except for tuna. And then I started to like salmon, and then I got sick of salmon. I don't know how that happened, but we caught enough sucker fish to make 24 pint jars of sucker meat this year, like bringing in a whale on the line. Love my canned pantry. Yep. The canned fish definitely is. Well, I do like the canned beef. I have a lot of canned beef put up. I just don't use it that often. But that's something that's really good for using in things um, like what was I going to say? Oh, what was I going to say? Okay, well, it just left my brain again. The words from my brain have been doing this to me a lot lately. leaving me hanging here. I like salmon in the grill with mayo and dill. Salmon patties. Oh yeah, like a sandwich spread. I've done that too with salmon. And that's another thing you can use the canned salmon for is make, just like you would a tuna sandwich, make a salmon sandwich spread. It's good. I've heard you can replace shrimp in any recipe with bites of gar. Gar? I don't even know what that is. I've made instead of like clam chowder or shrimp chowder, I've made chowder with other types of fish. That's what I was going to do. I want to take some of that cod and make a cod chowder. So for those who are avoiding shellfish, you can use the other types of fish. Well, it's like the dip. So my brother-in-law used to make us really good clam dip, but then when we decided to start cutting all the shellfish, I thought, well, I should make this with salmon instead. I like it better. It's good. And it's easier, it mixes in nice. You don't have to worry about bits of sand in there either. That's so interesting. What is gar? I don't even know what that is. Is that a type of fish? Most people don't eat gar, but it's a clean fish, has a long snout and a bunch of teeth. Huh. Never heard of it. Not that that's unusual. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people hadn't heard of steelhead. They were like, "What's steelhead?" Because it's something that's common out here, like a fish with an alligator mouth. What did I try? It was pretty good. I just wanted to try. I can't remember what it was. It was a clean fish. I got it from Misfits Market. And they had it in there for a while. It was kind of expensive, but for the price, I'm like, the flavor was good, but I wouldn't say it was a whole lot different than cod or halibut. Gar is a fish down here, but not up there. It's not bad tasting, but tough and chewy. I could see why that would be why one could use that to replace clams and whatnots. A dinosaur-looking fish. I think my very favorite fish, though, is rainbow trout. My very, very favorite when it comes to fish. I love rainbow trout. I don't get that one enough. So, I'm thinking I should probably get going. I didn't have anything else to say anyway, and I'm just rambling, just hanging out with y'all. Oh, wait, what was I going to say? There was something I was going to share about my garden. I know I already talked about gardeny stuff. Seemed like there was something else. I didn't write it down. Oh, the tomatoes. So I am starting to get tomatoes. There's little green tomatoes right now, but you know what gets me every year at this time when the tomatoes start taking off like that? Because they're in the greenhouse, so the cold weather hasn't really affected them. Is that like every day you go out there, you're breaking off all them lower leaves, and you're like, okay, I should be good for a few days. You go out there the next day, and it's like, what happened? You're breaking off more leaves. It's crazy, but I love it at the same time. I'm seeing all these tomatoes coming on, and I'm so excited. Love my tomatoes, and I realize how low I am on salsa. I haven't made salsa in a while, so I'll probably be using a lot of my tomatoes this year to put up a bunch of salsa, and then whatever we don't eat fresh, and then whatever's left after that, then I'll probably be dehydrating. And then also, like, as it gets to the end of the year and the freeze is coming and you're wanting to use up the green tomatoes, there's a few things you can do. I was actually surprised. I haven't done it a lot, but I think I did a video on green tomatoes and all the many ways you can use them. I mean, you can pickle them, which was, ferment them like a pickle. And that was okay. I only did it once. But you could probably pickle them like with vinegar if you wanted to as well. But I found that I could take the green tomatoes and, they're really kind of acidic, but if you cut them up and cook them along just like with any other vegetable, they lose a lot of that acidicness and they're not too bad. So I've used them in stir fries, like a stir-fried vegetable, with like onions and garlic and whatever seasoning. And like that beef veggie bake I was talking about that I got in the solar oven. I've done that same thing using, adding green tomatoes. So you just chop them up and throw them in there as a vegetable. And they don't, when you go to eat it, it doesn't necessarily have a tart flavor. Sorry. And then of course there's like, I like using the green tomatoes to make a relish. Makes a really good relish. You can use green. I usually do green tomatoes and zucchini because I have a ton of zucchini, and make a relish out of that. Turns out pretty good. I have a recipe on that. It's old, but it's a good recipe. I still use that one. So all I know, like I said about the Braggs, the only thing I've ever used is their soy sauce, which is their liquid aminos, and it's still good. It's still the same. And I absolutely do not believe that their apple cider vinegar is any different, even though I've never used it before or after. Because like I said, it wouldn't make any sense for them to use some kind of expensive thing on the apples when they're just going to make vinegar out of it. That is a conspiracy theory. That is false. So there's conspiracy facts and there's conspiracy theories, and it's understanding the difference between the two and always making sure you vet all your information before falling for it. Man, my throat is so itchy. So I probably should get off here. But there was something else I was going to say about green tomatoes you can use them for. What else? Oh, I'm forgetting. But anyway, just try, like, if you're trying to use up your green tomatoes, and besides fried green tomatoes, try just playing around with them and doing different things with them. And you might be surprised finding what all you can use them up for and in. I like fried green tomatoes sometimes, but not all the time. I don't know, there's something about the fried and the acidicness of them that just doesn't always sit well in my stomach. And they taste good enough I could eat a bunch of them, and then I feel like crud afterwards. So I prefer just using them as a side vegetable or in making, and salsa, that was it. salsa was, I think I've used them in salsa, but I like my salsa red. I've made, salsa verde using, tomatillos, and I liked it. I was growing them for a couple years, and they grew pretty prolifically for a couple years too. And I liked it. It turned out good. I just don't like it as much as the red tomato salsa. I like the color better. I like the flavor better. I made salsa verde out of green tomatoes, and it was my preferred choice over red. See, everybody's gonna be different. There's a great way you can use up your green tomatoes, and if you prefer salsa verde. I don't eat tomatoes, but I eat everything you can make with one, and I'm pretty good at growing them. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. You don't like just eat like fresh tomatoes. You prefer to use them in things like sauces. That's mostly why I grow tomatoes is because I have to have my tomatoes to make my Italian sauces. And then of course, my barbecue sauce, chili, and salsa. Though I do still like having fresh tomatoes to put in my salads or sometimes just to eat, like the smaller, like the not the Romas, so not the cherry tomatoes. I never do really great with cherry tomatoes for some crazy reason. But like I can eat a tomato right off the plant and it's warm and it's, because it's in the greenhouse. Oh my goodness, add a little salt. So good. Love them. Has anyone here ever grown? I did it once. I won't do it again. Ever grown the blueberry cherry tomatoes? That was the only cherry tomato that grew amazingly well for me. And I didn't even grow them in the greenhouse. I grew them just outside the greenhouse. They'd get so many beautiful purpley blue tomatoes on them. Did not like the flavor. I was so disappointed because they were beautiful. They grew so great. Did not care for the flavor. And I was wondering if anybody else ever grew those and really liked them because I just did not. I know somebody else said they grew them and they didn't care for the flavor. But man, they were beautiful. But they're, about the size of your standard cherry tomato like that. But they're more of a blue, purpley color. Swamp tomatoes that are amazing and the size of a blueberry. Huh. Swamp tomatoes. Does that mean they like a lot of water or they grow in swampy soil, swampy ground? Sun gold and black cherry tomatoes. I don't know if I've tried. I think I've grown the sun gold ones before. And they do okay in the greenhouse. It just seems like they don't do as well. Like I don't get as much and it's kind of not really worth it to me other than just for the sake of snacking on them because of my limited space and I need my tomatoes. I need some big tomatoes. I'll have my Romas, but I gotta have good size, lots of good sized tomatoes for my sauces or, for dehydrating up to make sauces. So processing them in the blender raw, dehydrating them as is, and then flake them up. And then I use that for making any of my sauces. I could use that to make salsa too. I would just rather make my salsa. Maybe I should try it because sometimes my salsa can turn out a little bit runny. But if I use the dehydrated tomato flakes, I could then control you know, how runny it is, how thick it is. That might actually be a better idea. Normally, what I do is I make the salsa up raw, put it in the jars, and just can it as is instead of cooking it down. Cooking it down would take out a lot of the liquid, so it wouldn't be as runny. It's still really good though. And, if you used like aromas, you wouldn't get as much liquid in it. So that's why aromas are good for like sauces and things like that. Yeah, I think they're Cherokee purples. That's another one that I grow. And the reason I say I think they're Cherokee purples, they're the only purple I know of, and they look like a Cherokee, but I had bought years ago, long before I started my channel, I had bought just like a mystery bunch of organic heirloom tomatoes, and they had all colors in there. And so I wanted to try them all, and they were all good, but the purple in there was my favorite, but I didn't know what it was called. They didn't have any names on them. But it was a purple. It was clearly a purple, and I've been growing it ever since. I saved the seeds from that and then started growing them. It's one of the ones that does best for me. And so I grow them every year because it does so good, and then save the seeds every year. So it's all from that one tomato. I love that you can do that. You can go buy some organic, non-GMO fruit or vegetable that, has a seed inside it. And if you love the flavor of it, save those seeds and grow it. If it's something that'll grow in your area, that is. I mean, we do have a grapefruit tree again because of a seed that was in a grapefruit that we bought. But I'll probably never get grapefruits here. It does make a beautiful plant, though. I have all kinds of videos on how to save seeds. I do it. I'm always changing up how I do the tomatoes, though. Always. And everybody has their own way of doing it. The way I do it now, I used to save it, like slice them and then save it as a whole slice and then plant the slice. I don't do it like that anymore because I'm like, I'm not going to do that way. I decided what I started doing was I used the tomato, but I kind of squeeze out as much of the seeds as I can. And then I spread them on a paper towel and let them dry on the paper towel. And then label it, fold it up, paper towel and all. And then when I go to plant them, I'll just rip off chunks of the paper towel with the seeds on them and put them in the pots like that. Works great. Now, some people will ferment the seeds and then let them dry. I've done that before. Zach found 2 black widows, you mean? In his Cherokee tomatoes last year. Freaked me out. Because you said freaked me out. I'm thinking you mean widows, black widows. Black widows aren't really common in really wet areas like ours, but we're in Wenatchee, they are. Came across black widows a few times over there. Yuck. Black windows. Yeah, I'd be a little freaked out if my Cherokee tomatoes had windows in them. That would be weird. Takes a lot to get a black widow to bite you. They're not aggressive. That's what I came to figure out. I used to be so afraid of them. Well, and they're black and they're shiny and they got that red thing on them to make them all look even more scary and freaky. But it's even Wenatchee where they were pretty common because they tend to like drier climates. I think the whole time growing up Wenatchee, I only saw 2. One was dead, and it had ended up in my dad's old canvas tent. And the other one was actually still alive and in the house, but it was hiding behind one of Mom's decorative little doodads. But yeah, it's the only time I ever saw them like for reals. Anyway, I should get now that my throat's doing fine. It just wants to really start bothering me when I'm in the middle of something. But it's not itchy now. That stuff does work. That tincture, my elderberry tincture. This is actually, I don't know if I told you guys, it's actually a blend of echinacea tincture and elderberry tincture. It wasn't supposed to be. I'm like, oh, I still have some elderberry tincture here I can add to this. And after I poured it in there, I realized it said echinacea tincture. Whatever. It works. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of spiders. I used to be just horribly afraid of them. I'm not saying I'm not afraid of them still to a point, but they don't freak me out the way they once used to. It's like around here, the common spider is the brown recluse. I don't know that I've ever actually seen one. I think I've seen some in our firewood, but they will run. It's not like they want to bite you. They would rather run from you. That's why they're called recluse. But it's still a good idea to wear gloves when you're handling the firewood that's been sitting back in storage for a while because you could accidentally grab one, and that's when it's gonna bite you. It's not like there's this spider down in, Oregon, in the southern part of Oregon, maybe even California. I don't know what it's called. I just remember Patrick's aunt telling a story. It's a small spider, and it will actually leap on you and basically shoot its fangs into your skin. And she said one did that and got her right here, and it swelled up and it was sore. The thing she saw it, it was up on the curtains, and when it saw her looking at it, and the thing just leaped straight at her. See, that's the kind of spider that would scare the crud out of me. Now, the spider we get the most around here are the we call them pumpkin spiders here, but they're also known as like the orb or the orb weaver spiders. They're absolutely harmless. They're just big and fat, and they got really interesting patterns on them. Totally harmless, but in the fall, they're everywhere. Everywhere. Webs all over the place outside. They don't come inside, they just stay outside. What song did I miss now? I don't like that. It's a song. I don't like spiders and snakes. I'd probably recognize it as a kid song. I could show you recluse spiders. My house was infested. Oh, really? Ew, how scary. I have them better under control now, but still have them. Yeah, here they tend to just like to hide out in firewood and places like that. I don't. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. There's a tune that's almost trying to come to my head. I'm going to have to look that up. I'll have to look it up. That's not the same guy that did Junk Food Junkie or what's that other one? What's that other song? Convoy? I can't remember who sang that. But at night I'm a junk food junkie. Remember that song? Oh Lord, have mercy on me. The hobo spider is a cousin to the recluse. Same everything, but doesn't have the fiddle on its head. So Tyler, does it have a little stick with a little bag hanging off of it? Patches on its legs? That's what I picture a hobo spider looking like little patches, a little bowler hat. Sounds kind of cute. No, but it just bums around. Good one. You're quick, Tyler. I appreciate that about you. I almost have that tune in my head. I think I know. I think I do remember it, but vaguely. I'm not going to try to sing it because I'll probably be completely wrong. Because now it's starting to ring a bell. It must have been a long, long time ago. It must be a goldie oldie. Like what are some of my aunt and I are the same age. I'm actually 7 months older than her, and we were like best friends growing up. And she used to have the Goofy Greats album. And this was back in the mid 70s. I had like Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini and Ahab the Arab. That's a great one. Goofy Greats was the album. Can't remember what all the songs were on there. There was a lot of fun songs on that one though. Anyway, definitely just talking about random silly stuff, aren't we? But that's okay. It's okay to have fun and be silly. It's comedy relief. We all need it, don't we? So, but that ain't. It's not. It's still not. It's not clicking for me. It's like I almost think I have the tune in my head, but I'm gonna have to look it up and then play it when I get off of here. I'll look it up on YouTube. I'm sure it's there. You can find everything on. You can find like old commercials, like he likes it. Hey, Mikey, the old Life commercial. You can find that. You can find all those old commercials, all the ones we grew up with, and uh. Anyway, so I'm gonna get off here. I I do have some chores I really, really need to get done. And everybody's still talking about that song. And I'm like totally drawing a blank here. Not totally, because I feel like I've got just a little bit of the tune in my head, but it's still not totally clicking. Anyway, so I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And those of you who are going through that some really extreme heat, hang in there. Hang in there. Don't dehydrate on us. Please drink your water. Drink water because I've seen her dehydrate, sir. It's not a pretty sight. There's a movie quote for you. Thank you, everyone. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for coming in here. Take care and God bless. Love y'all. Bye.